we've established the importance of due process. I've even gone as far as to say that it is the single most important idea or ideal of our Anglo-American legal tradition and of our legal environment. But what is due process? How does it cash out in practice? Well, lawyers like to talk about and judges like to talk about two aspects of due process: substantive due process and procedural due process. Substantive due process is very controversial. Cases like Roe v. Wade, is there a right to privacy or a right to, if you narrow it down, abortion rights, substantive due process. So it's controversial because sometimes the Supreme Court will, if there's not a specific reference to a right in the Constitution, they might want to create that right and say, well, this is substantive due process. This is a basic right. Very controversial. I'm not too worried about substantive due process because when you actually count up the number of substantive due process cases, it's really few and far between in this era. There's a sort of a recognition even by the Supreme Court that substantive due process is, we have to tread very lightly there. But I want to focus now on procedural due process. Procedural due process is far less controversial. It's really the bedrock of our system, and it, whether we're talking about civil or criminal cases, the basic idea of this form of due process, and now when I say due process, I'm really referring to procedural due process. Procedural due process is that you have to be given, whenever anybody accuses you of something, you have to have an opportunity to be heard. That's really the essence. You have to have a hearing of some sort. Now, how detailed it has to be, jury, you get a jury, is it 6-person jury, 12-person jury, what are the details of the hearing? That really just depends on the state you're in and on the circumstances and on the gravity of the accusations made against you. But the basic idea is you have to have an opportunity to be heard. Now, of course, in a criminal case, right, you also have a right not to self-incriminate yourself, so you don't have to exercise your right to testify, for example, but you have a right to be present at the hearing. You have to be given a hearing before the government can do anything to you. And this really permeates our entire system, not just criminal and civil cases, right? Jury trials. But think about rulemaking, right? Even when an administrative agency or the Congress wants to enact a bill, well, there's got to be a hearing, right? There's got to be a committee hearing, right? It's got to be open. People have to be invited to speak. That kind of thing. And same thing with an agency rulemaking process. There's a notice and comment period. That's how important due process is. I would even argue it spills over into private ordering. Although UCF is a public university, but even private universities like Harvard, like in the movie The Social Network, when Jesse Eisenberg, who is portraying Mark Zuckerberg, he's ad-boarded for hacking into Harvard's computer, right? He's given a student conduct committee, an ad board hearing. Right? He's given a chance to defend himself against the allegations. So that is a very important part of due process. You have to give people a chance to defend themselves when you accuse them of misconduct. And I would argue, right, that's a really important idea even in our daily lives. All right, there's one more aspect of due process, procedural due process I want to talk about, but I'll do that in the next video, and I'll tie it in directly into criminal and civil cases. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you soon.